Welcome to Real Talk with Sudhanya. My guest today is Heij. He's a 31-year-old Dutchman currently traveling from Netherlands to India by foot. He's on a quest to heal his wounded masculine. His goal is to help everyone on earth from suffering to freedom. Now, if you are curious about what is wounds, masculine wounds, this episode is for you. I wanted to start with a big applause for you for setting on this huge journey of making it from Netherlands to India by foot and by public transport. And I know that right now you are in Bulgaria, Sofia, and that's such an incredible journey that you're taking. And I know as much it from the outside it looks so courageous, I know it's a very courageous inward journey too. So congratulations for making it so far.
Thank you.
And so tell me about your journey.
Yes. So first of all, thank you for inviting me, Sudhanya. It's really nice to be here, and I'm sure we're gonna have a lovely talk about this. And yeah, I started now 4 months ago, I think, on my journey. And in April, I quit my job. I knew I wanted to make a journey to India. I got inspired by Sadhguru from.
Mhm.
It's a guru from India that has a yoga center, and I wanted to go there to experience it myself.
Mhm.
And that was first the idea, just to go there.
Mhm.
Um, but then I thought maybe I can also make it a long journey towards India, because
Mhm.
I've been working on myself. Maybe it sounds a bit hard, but I've been um, trying to make myself a better person for quite a long time now. And
Mhm.
in the end, I came towards spirituality, and it
Mhm.
helped me a lot. But there are still a lot of things that I'm struggling with, I'm dealing with, and I just wanted to create a space for myself where I have the opportunity to go even deeper within myself, to heal myself, and um, basically to go even deeper. And I think I
Wow.
thought before I went that going on a trip by foot uh, would be a perfect opportunity for me to do that, because I would have a
Mhm.
lot of time with myself to go inward and to be aware of my thoughts and what kind of impact it has on my life. So the first idea was actually just to go by foot from
Mhm.
Eindhoven, where I live, to Istanbul, and
Mhm.
then from Istanbul take public transport to India. And I've been walking a lot, like 1,000 kilometers from the start from Eindhoven. I made it somewhere halfway Germany, and that was actually quite tough for me, because it was at some point I just got quite lonely.
Yeah.
And then I decided at that point that it would be more fulfilling for me to change it up and also take public transport. So now I'm taking public transport to go to a new place, and then I hike for a couple of days just to be in the nature with myself, to connect to the nature, and then go back public transport to hostels just to connect with people and just to meet people, because in the end we are all social beings, so it's
Yes.
nice to be around people. I'm sure everyone would agree with that, right?
Yeah, and you have been already. I saw your polar steps, and you have already been through 10 countries now.
I think this is the 10th one where I'm right now. Yes.
Oh wow! So tell me, what was one of the most interesting, or a few of the most interesting highlights from these 10 countries?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the 1,000 kilometers into Germany was quite intense.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from that,
Mm.
and uh, then I went more towards the Balkans, also
Mm-hmm.
because it's a bit warmer there, so
Yeah.
I would have easier time sleeping in the nature in my tent.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Balkans is a very complex. It used to be Yugoslavia,
Mm,
and it fell apart. They have politically, it's a bit of a mess between a lot of those countries there.
mm-hmm.
And for me, Bosnia is the biggest mess actually because they have like three different cultures there that live in that country. The Bosniaks, who are basically Muslims,
Okay.
a lot of Croats, they are Christians, and the Serbs
Mm-hmm.
minority as well, and they are Christian Orthodox. So
Oh,
the Croats are
wow.
Christian Catholic, and they kind of live together in that country, but it's very divided. And you
Mm,
can see it in the cities, you can see it in the way people behave, and you can see the scars of the wars that went on there. It
wow.
was very impressive country for me to be in. It's very
Mm,
wounded, but also very real, like very raw, so to say.
mm. So tell
Uh,
me one
yeah.
instance, for example, which this really was very clear, just to get an idea.
Oh, I can give you a lot of examples, but the first place I went to was Mostar.
Mm-hmm.
It's a city a bit more in the south
Mm,
that got attacked by the war. Actually, Serbia attacked Bosnia because
mm-hmm.
when Yugoslavia fell apart,
Mm-hmm.
it broke off into pieces. First, Slovenia declared independence,
Mm,
and then also Bosnia. But
mm-hmm.
the part of Serbia back then, they did not like that, and they wanted a piece of the Bosnian land, so they attacked Bosnia.
Mm,
And then the Croatians were supposed to help
mm.
the Bosnian people, but in the end they betrayed them kind of. So
Oh.
in Mostar you see this big divide in one part of the city where the Muslim Bosniaks live, and the other part is the Croat part.
Oh.
And it's a huge difference. And the Croat part is quite rich. You see a lot of new buildings, and the Bosniak part is very poor. Lots of destroyed buildings. You see the front line where all attacks happened. So it's very
Wow.
visible in the
Wow.
city and also in the
Wow.
way people behave with each other.
Wow. Wow. And what did that make you feel in your inward journey?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I've been dealing with a lot of stuff myself actually.
Mm.
I think we can go into that later.
Yeah.
Um,
Or good
and
parts of it because it's all intertwined.
yeah,
Right?
exactly. It made me feel very connected to this country because it's very
Mm.
wounded, and
Mm.
maybe it sounds strange, but my like I know deep down I'm a soul that's whole, but my personality, my character, it carries a lot of pain from the past, a lot of traumas. It's
Mm.
very wounded, so to say, and I feel like this country carries that as well. So I felt very
Wow.
connected to the country. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why I liked it there so much. Like because it's in some way it's yeah, I don't know, it felt
It
a
was
bit
physical
dark,
manifestation of your journey, of what you're going through.
maybe. Yeah, could be.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's, I think, also very healing to see that, right? That, okay, it's just not made up in my mind and what I'm thinking or going through. It's something that is very visible, which, yeah, if we are living in our own bubble, we think we are so hard on ourselves. We think that, okay, this is all made up. Why can't I live happy just like everybody around me is living, which clearly not many are. And yeah, such a journey where you really introspect and see the physical consequence of woundedness in and the wars and the um
I
yeah
see it.
implications.
I see it in the outside world, also within myself at the same
Yes.
time. That was very interesting because I
Mm,
saw it within myself, but then also in the outside world, in the place
mm,
where I was actually traveling. So it
yeah.
kind of connected with each other.
Cool. Cool.
But
Oh.
I'm actually like the reason I'm doing this journey is also to heal my wounds.
Mm,
So it's tough to go there and to see and
mm,
experience these wounds. That is the reason I'm also doing this trip. So in a way, I'm also very grateful that this is happening to me,
mm,
because I believe like human beings grow spiritually through challenge. If
right.
there's no challenge, there's not really much change. So in the end, whenever I go through it, it's not always easy and fun and nice.
Mm,
But after, when I look back, I'm always very grateful for these moments because they get me to a higher level. They make me grow, and this
mm,
is happening to me now as well.
mm.
Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, up until now, my journey is not that easy for me, but it's good because of this, because I know it's really what I came here to do, and
yeah.
yeah.
Wow, it's beautiful that you're embracing and head on, um, seeing this darkness and the wounds, because let me tell you that not everybody has the courage to do that, and especially for a man, especially for a man. So I would like to really, really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for doing this and having the courage to share it with us. Um, because, like you and me both know that, especially in the Western world, we don't um at least openly embrace our darknesses, and hence it's more
Hmm.
difficult to grow out of the wounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's, I think that's a really good bridge. I would like to go into that topic.
Hmm.
Um, um, yeah, just to understand your perspective about spirituality and the journey. What is spirituality for you?
Um, Spirituality is for me like a dimension that goes beyond the physical. So
Mm-hmm.
spirituality for me is the dimension that's not visible,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like every human being, what you really are, your essence, is something spiritual. We call it the soul. You
Mm,
cannot see it, but this is in essence what you are.
mm,
And the physical world, the outside world,
mm,
manifests from that, but ultimately is not real because whatever is going to happen in your life, it comes
mm,
and it goes. So it's the physical world is impermanent,
mm,
and your soul, that's the thing that is real, but we don't see it with our physical senses. And this is so difficult for people to get to that level where you realize
mm,
that's actually in the stillness within yourself that you can find this dimension because it's so hidden, you know.
mm,
You live your
mm,
life, all these things happen, and
mm,
usually for most people it takes a lot of pain, a lot of challenge uh, to realize who you really are. And when
yeah.
you do, it's such a liberation because when you enter that space, when you enter that stillness within yourself,
Mm,
and you are able to experience the world without any thoughts. So
mm,
you're not labeling everything anymore because
mm,
that's what I used to do as well when I was younger. I
mm,
would look at the world, everything would be good or bad. I would give
mm,
everything a name. So
mm,
it's you conceptualize everything. Your
mm,
mind just keeps running and running and running. But ultimately, that's not what gives you peace. What gives you
mm,
peace is just to be able to look at the world
mm-hmm.
without any labels. And
Right.
then that's kind of the end of separation because then you become one with whatever you're aware of.
Wow.
And that dimension to me is spirituality.
Wow. That's beautiful and very wise words to really take new avenues in this. That were you always like this? Were you always spiritual growing up, or was it something that happened to you due to some reason in your life?
Oh no, definitely not. Like when I grew up, I mean, if I look back at it now, I was actually very fortunate to be born in the Netherlands, high living standards. I had a lot of friends,
Mm,
and I was good at certain things.
mm,
So I should be happy, right? But I was
yeah.
not. I was like having a lot of issues with myself, and there were things I was good at, and when these things fell away, like for example sports, my
Mm,
physical body started, yeah, having issues
mm,
that I still have today. Um, they forced me to look within myself and to first I started more going towards self development. Like I
mm,
would read books about Stephen Covey or Tony Robbins or all these other motivational people. I learned a lot from that, and it's really helped me.
mm,
But still, it didn't get me out of this state of suffering that I would still every now and then feel or be in.
Okay, so so just making it more concrete in terms of suffering, what was the physical? It was only a physical suffering where you had certain pains, or it was some mental agony that you were having?
For me, it's my biggest challenge is manifested in two ways. One of them is my physical body.
Hmm.
I experience difficulty on the right side of my body, from my hip towards my toes, basically. And because of this reason, I also was not able. I was just not healthy anymore and able to
Hmm.
just do the sports that I was good at.
Okay.
Um,
And I know that
and
Netherlands is sports freak, and you not being able to do your favorite football or hockey.
no, it was football. Yeah, yeah, I was a big football player.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be
It was an identity crisis
shattering.
actually,
Yeah.
because my identity was I was my identity was connected to that, and when it fell away, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know anything about myself, and so I
Wow.
started the big journey about that.
Yeah.
And yeah, in the end, I came towards spirituality, partly because of that, and also the other thing that manifests in my life is that it's difficult for me to like romantic relationships
Mm,
were difficult
mm,
for me. I would
mm,
experience a lot of trouble there, and I would be
mm,
quite passive as well in that sense.
mm.
Um, so these two things really
Wow.
forced me to look deeper, and then I kind of stumbled into spiritual. I was not even looking for it. I was not
Mm.
religious. I mean, I grew up with the church. I would go to the church with my
Yeah.
parents,
Okay.
but I really feel like it didn't mean at the time. It just didn't mean anything for me. I would just go there because I had to go there with my parents,
Mm,
and my brother was
mm,
like how do you say it? Pushing away from it, kind of. But
mm,
I would just go, and it wouldn't influence me in any way, sort of, kind of
mm.
going.
Yeah.
And when I was 18, I didn't have to go anymore.
Right.
So I was not
Not at
in
all
any way
religious. Mm.
religious or spiritual, no.
No.
And I think around my 26 or something, I stumbled upon some spiritual texts and books,
Mm.
especially a spiritual teacher called Eckhart Tolle really helped me
Equatorial. Oh, yeah.
with a very famous book, The Power of Now. When I read that, I didn't understand anything the first time. And then half a year later, I reread it, and then I just understood it. It just clicked.
Mm.
And then I was able for the first time in my life just to look at the world without labeling it. And that was
Wow.
such a liberation for me. It was so, I became so peaceful
Mm.
then. And yeah, then I just knew that I found something that is real instead of,
Mm.
I found something that gets me out of the suffering.
Right. Yeah.
Yes,
Something that is more sustainable rather than, the artificial
definitely.
fixing and the distractions that we have made up this whole facade in our society with.
Yes, definitely. I mean, now it's still a challenge sometimes, but I'm
Mm,
just trying to enjoy the pleasure of the world without getting lost in it, because
mm,
it's very easy to get lost in it.
mm, mm,
Everything from this world's pleasures, it's always an up and a down.
mm,
And once you know that, and you can always go back to that
mm,
dimension where you are not separate,
mm.
life becomes just so much easier. It's for me, spirituality is the most practical thing a human being can do or get into, because it just shows you the truth and the best way to live, in my opinion.
Yeah,
And a lot
more
of people
sustainable.
think spirituality is very floaty and fake.
Woo woo.
It's woo woo. It's very practical, actually.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And I think coming from you would much make it much more impactful because you are in this journey. But I also have realized that you really need to have a hard knock to really acknowledge this dimension, unfortunately. And
Or you need
that's
to have what?
where you have to be knocked with something really
Oh, yeah,
difficult.
yeah,
And for example, in your case, the physical. difficulty to give up sports and also relationships. They are, the core of our materialistic life, our external life that we live in, and when that doesn't go as per what we wish to, and that's when you realize that something much more real and sustainable as well.
Yeah, it's a huge
Beautiful.
opportunity to have challenges in your life.
Mm,
Like whenever I see someone going through huge suffering or challenge, I'm actually
mm,
happy for them. But it's
mm,
also a bit dangerous because, like for me, it got to a point where I would also have thoughts of suicidal thoughts.
mm,
It
mm,
didn't get really bad for me.
mm,
Um, and I'm really
mm,
happy that I got to spirituality before anything could happen in that sense.
mm,
Um, but yeah, if you reach that level, it's a really beautiful place actually to get
mm,
there because
mm,
that is when people start to realize who they really are often. But it's
mm.
also a bit dangerous because if you
Exactly.
don't get there, yeah, things people might do suicide, for example.
Yeah. And also go into the extreme side of suffering, right? Get into addictions, get into, so I don't know, retail therapy, get into drinking, get into all these stuffs without really looking inward, and
Mm.
um, and you dare to, question yourself, like, okay, is this the only way to be?
Yeah.
You mentioned about your wounds, and um, tell if you're open, tell me more about what you discovered in this journey. Also, before this trip to India,
Hmm.
but also before that, um, um, you also mentioned about the wounded masculine, and
Yes.
I and it's not a surprise that you mentioned that the right side of you face right side of your body physical health,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that is in a
The
way the
masculine energy.
masculine
Yeah.
side. So
Yes.
I am yeah, very curious to know, what did you find out? What is wounded masculine?
Yes, I'm open to talk about it, but
Mm,
there are some boundaries as well. Some things
respect.
are I would like to keep private, but I'm just going to try to talk to you about it as open as I can and
Hmm.
still have a healthy boundary there.
Right.
Um, yeah, like for me, I really feel like, I mean, I believe in the reincarnation. So we have
Hmm.
past lives and we carry a lot of emotion. We have an emotional field and a mental field that carries over into our
Hmm.
next lives. And also ancestral and genetics are carried over.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of luggage and baggage that
Mm,
goes on from thousands of generations to
mhm,
us.
mhm,
And we carry that. And the masculine has done a lot of bad things in the world in the
mm,
past, like
mhm,
murder, rape, much more than the feminine.
mm,
So there's a lot of blame around that,
mm,
also from the feminine side.
mm,
But for the masculine is very wounded because of that, and I discovered that in myself as well. It's like there's a huge shame and guilt inside this energy,
mm,
in my own energy field. I feel it there,
mm,
and I carry this, but it's ultimately not me. Obviously, it's
mm,
just an energy field and a mental field that exists in me,
mm,
but still it's there, and it gets triggered for me in certain situations. It can be different for everyone, and everyone
mm,
might have different ancestors and different like mental and emotional fields that they carry with them. But for
mm,
me, it really manifests the most into romantic relationships with women.
mm,
That's where I struggle the most with this energy.
mm,
And to give you an example, like for me, it's very difficult to open up myself to the feminine side because yeah, this guilt and especially shame is an emotion that is the worst emotion you can have because shame basically cripples you. It makes you passive.
mm,
It makes you feel like you're not adequate.
mm,
So when you have this, you don't do anything basically. And
Yeah.
this manifests in my life that I'm not actively looking for a partner, for example,
Mm,
even
mm,
though like I know I would like to have family eventually
mm,
and maybe children.
mm,
So I struggle with that. So this is
mm,
one thing, like this masculine wound that goes back for your own past lives that you lived, but also ancestral and genetics that are passed on.
right.
And the other thing is, when we grow up, our parents give us a lot of luggage, like
Mm,
how you grow up within
mm,
your parental house with your parents, the relationship with your parents, your mother and father, and your siblings is so extremely important
mm,
that we carry that luggage with us as well. So there's a lot of trauma coming from there as well.
right.
And for me, um, I grew up with a very, very protective mother
Mm,
um, that, yeah, sort of like she was claiming me a little bit, like when you have children, I really believe that they are not yours. You're
mm,
just raising them. They are
mm,
also a soul. But a lot of parents, they can lose themselves in their children and they carry their own traumas and their own unconsciousness
mm,
and they transmit that on their children.
mm,
And what I see in the society now um, is that the feminine suffers a lot
mm,
because of that's very visible because of rape, for example,
mm,
that happened to young girls coming from um, parents or other men outside of their own family.
mm-hmm.
But on the masculine side, there's also a lot going on, but it's just more subtle. It's less visible. It's,
Right.
for example, my mother was just too close to me from a young age because she had
Mm,
her own issues, and she was claiming me sort of. So as a young boy growing up like that, you feel like you
mm,
want to save your mother or help your mother,
mm,
but because you're not emotionally and mentally mature yet, you can't really replace that. You
mm,
can't. But you're so young, you don't know what's going on. So
no.
then you grow up, and then you feel, um, I feel shame because of that, and it
Shame
manifests from,
for shame for not being able to provide to your mom or
yeah, to not able to not to not be able to be there for her in that
mm,
sense
mm,
because
mm,
she was yeah, I know my mother's probably gonna listen to this as well, so maybe this is not easy as well
mm,
for her to hear. Um, but yeah, for me it manifests as sort of a shameful thing because because he was so close to me from that young age, and because she was transmitting so many of her own feminine energy and feminine thoughts to me, this became my dominant worldview. And
mm,
in our society now, like um, from a young age, like boys need also time with their fathers to learn from their fathers.
mm,
And when we were still hunters and gatherers,
mm,
this would happen, and there was actually initiation for that. But
mm,
now what happens is that the man goes to work, and
mm,
the boy, or me in this case, don't
mm,
get to see the father in his working environment and connect with him. So you're
yeah,
basically most of the time you are with your mother. So, but I'm a masculine character, so
right.
I need a masculine example, and I need to learn from that masculine example what it means to be a man, sort of.
Mm, right.
And because this stage is not there, and mothers have a really hard time letting go of their children, especially boys,
Mm,
because they want to protect them. And when the mother becomes too protective, from a young age, it was really difficult, for example, to set my own boundaries in the outside
yeah, you
world
don't
and to
know.
stand up
Yeah.
for myself because I never learned that because my mother would always do that.
Mm,
So you grow up in a way that you're very disconnected from masculine energy,
right.
and you have this wound also. So it becomes really difficult. It became really difficult for me. I'm just gonna speak for myself now because
Mm,
this is my experience. But I know a lot of men struggle with this.
mm,
Then it becomes really difficult for you to connect to your masculine energy and to actually
mm,
know what it means to be a man in our society. Like, what is
mm,
the role of the man in our current society? It's
mm,
very fake. It's very. not visible. And then there's a lot of blame as well from
Mm.
the feminine side
Feminine.
on the
Yeah.
masculine
Right.
because of the rapings that's going on. And I don't want to. That's terrible that these things happen. They really are. But like most masculine people, characters, they have nothing to do that to do with it, and we still carry this shame with us
Right.
inside of us.
It's not happening in the current times, or at least some parts of the world, it's not happening.
No, it's
But
not.
still, there is a lot of resentment. I can say it for myself also. That you spoke about wars and also the colonization history. I think we have the opposite side, right? The Europe was colonizing, and for example, I'm from India, colonized. So there is this resentment, although you have done nothing directly to me.
Yeah.
At this point of time, if I say now, we are absolutely equal intellectually, but I can really feel that mental and the emotional resentment.
Hmm.
And also, what I had in the past is like the feeling of inferiority.
Hmm.
Um, and now when I'm more aware of this, I feel more resentful that, okay, just because of this past,
Yeah.
I practically have, I have the glass ceiling. I practically have less privileges. And that makes me resentful towards the masculine, and
Yeah.
that's a weird energy. And you are saying from the other side, right? Where these things have happened in the past, we both have done nothing around it, but
Yeah.
still we have this tension and energy around us where it's not helping us.
Yeah. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. And for the masculine, it's mainly shame and guilt that
Mm,
that's in my experience, and I see it. I see a lot of men struggle
mm, right.
with relationships with women, and I think deep down, maybe the masculine is even a bit scared of the feminine because of all this guilt that we carry and all this shame,
Mm,
and
mm,
that's really not helping anyone because in the
no.
end, like sexuality is a part of this world, and we
Mm,
need to embrace that, I think.
right.
And if a masculine character cannot embrace his own sexuality, then
Yeah.
the feminine in the end will suffer from that as well. So it's not helping anyone.
Right. Yeah.
So I
And
think it's very important for um, people to realize this because
yeah.
like um, it's not very visible that this is going on for a masculine. Like for the feminine side, it's much more visible because
Mm,
it's very destructive as well, but in a
yeah.
way more direct way. It's more like a killing blow,
Mm,
and for the masculine, it's more like slow poison that you're drinking. It's not
right.
that visible, but it hurts a lot as well.
Yes. Yes. I totally agree. And it actually hurts, but since there is this ego and pride related to the whole masculine wounded face of the society, we don't know what's happening undercurrent. Right.
Yes. And I
So
think most men don't even know that because they're
yeah,
not connected to it, you know?
yeah, that's why I feel like what you're doing is so insanely important. I feel that you're opening up to these dimensions and owning up. And the fact that you're telling me is also helping me to deal with my resentment that, like, okay, first time ever in my life, there is one person, one guy who is willing to accept, you have not done, but at least the past thing. And that is very comforting for the feminine
Hmm.
to, be in our feminine energy rather than trying to be the masculine, also operate from a wounded side. Like, okay, let me show that I can also do it. I like working from ego and not and competition rather than collaboration, and accepting what you're saying, the sacredness of being human, like sexuality itself, sensuality itself. We have so much think if you see I think East and West are suffering from two different angles, but it is still um yeah, I think it's seen in a such a transactional and demeaning, and that's where the guilt, shame, pain, fear, all these comes from embracing our own body, uh which is highly sacred manifestation of the spiritual being soul.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's difficult also, but there here the church also played a very important role
Mm,
because like in especially in the West, I think in India it's much less.
mm,
Because for example, Shiva, the god Shiva is also known for his sexuality, so it's more embraced.
mm.
But especially in the West in Christianity, um, like big parts of the church are saying that sex is bad,
Sin.
and the patriarchy is um, there's basically there became this idea that if you want to grow spirituality and sex don't go together. So
Right.
what a lot of men did is that they abandoned their sexuality.
Yeah.
They cut themselves off from that, and
Yeah.
that's very detrimental because it's part of of your human nature, like
Yeah.
the physical nature of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if that keeps going on for years and years and years and years,
Mm.
it becomes
Wounded.
difficult for the next generations, and it's wounded. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
wounded.
Yeah.
It's just very repressed as well. And because it becomes so repressed,
Mm.
and because it cannot just come out the way it should come out, like in
Mm.
nature with animals, for example, animals don't have an issue with this because they don't have a sense of who they don't have an image of themselves.
Mm.
So when these urges come, they just
Mm.
perform sexual intercourse with each other.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
with humans, it's different. And because it's so repressed, it comes out in destructive ways. That's why there's so much rape going on, for
Mm.
example.
Mm.
There's
Mm.
actually, like the Aboriginals from Australia, they used to be very open in terms of sex. They would just mate with each other in front of each other.
Mm.
But there was no rape at all in this society because
Yeah.
it was just accepted and embraced.
Yeah.
And in our society, we do the opposite. We try to hide it. I also grew up thinking sex is bad. Like it
Yeah.
came from my parents a little
Yeah.
bit, I guess, but most also from the church.
Yeah.
And these ideas make it, yeah,
Yeah.
they make
The
the
relationship difficult. And
they do. Yeah.
yeah. And what I feel also for, especially for humans, it's also related to our emotional health, right? Because it's an emotional relationship as well. But since we discarded that part or made it too wounded as well, or if we don't know how to healthily express our emotions and energies and boundaries,
Hmm.
um, the the physical manifestation or the sexual intimacy also becomes very difficult and strained, because especially for the
Definitely.
feminine, it's all about the emotions and the mental relationship that you have,
Yes.
coming from that perspective. And hence, if that is closed, if for a man, if that is shut, of course the next level is also gonna be poor quality. And hence, for example, what I see in the West, the whole hookup culture, the whole um by the way, which is, I'm saying West, but this is very much prevalent in India and all these. Just go to India, you will see it. It's there. So it's like the most dominant like
Yeah.
way of being to look at these things,
Hmm.
is to just commoditize. I don't know if that's a word, like to make it like a transaction rather
Yeah.
than an a sacred expression, you know
Exactly. Yeah.
and that has also manifested both in females and males. Here I'm talking like a non-gender as well, that it has
Yeah.
also caused a lot of tension around having meaningful relationships.
Yeah. It has. I feel like, I mean, sex is neither bad nor good. It's just what
Mm,
it is. It's just part
mm,
of this world. And because it's looked at from such a negative perspective throughout history, throughout our
Mm-hmm.
ancestors, it just becomes repressed and difficult
Mm,
um, to embrace. And
mm,
then it comes out in destructive ways. And I also see the whole hookup culture also
mm,
part of that,
yeah.
because then the sacredness is not there. People are longing for it a lot,
Mm,
even though it's not easy that it happens, and then it can come out in uncontrolled ways.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, the
but I,
balance.
yeah, I also, by the way, see the hookup culture in terms of like what you're basically trying to do when you hook up with someone is to become one. But
Mm,
on the physical level, you can never become one. It's
no.
like it's very short, and then you separate again, right? So
Yeah.
if you don't have the deeper dimension in yourself where you're
Mm,
able to become one, then
mm,
you're gonna look for it in
mm,
sex, in the
mm,
other person.
yeah.
So I feel like this is what a lot of people are trying to do, and they keep hooking up with new people, and it's like for a lot of people it becomes an addiction as well, just to experience this oneness for this moment. But
Yeah.
it is never ending, so to say.
No, no, no. Wow, that's beautiful what you mentioned because if you don't have the intimacy within, it will never, you can't experience it. And that's the nature of physical. There is duality. And
You
you
cannot
keep on
become
looking.
one on a physical level. On a physical
No,
level, you will always. That's why there's always attraction to the opposite sex,
yeah,
because of this. Yeah, and it's
yeah,
like I believe we all hold both energies, and in
yeah.
some people it's more balanced. But there are also a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people who have either a lot of masculine energy or a lot of feminine. Especially for
Mm,
those people, the attraction is so strong that they're constantly trying to find someone to balance this energy with on a physical level.
mm. Wow. Well, I think very deep work that you're doing now in that sense. Um, then my next, since you are looking into the wounds, what would be your version of the divine masculine, taking all these wounds into consideration? If we are able, and I'm talking for myself also because I have my wounded masculine side as well. What would
Yes.
be the um when I shed these guilt, shame, fear, pride, ego around it? How I'm just imagining how will that look like? What would be a role model?
The divine masculine.
Yeah.
For example, your god Shiva would be a role model of the divine
Mm,
masculine.
mm,
Um, I see masculine energy as very intense and active.
mm-hmm,
Um, it always tries to do something, so
mm,
there's always a purpose behind everything.
mm,
So if a man is able to embrace this divine masculine energy, then he becomes very active and purpose driven in the world,
mm-hmm,
and he is able to operate the world in a very fierce way. But
mm,
because he is divinely masculine, there is a good balance with his feminine energy as well. Because if
mm,
you only operate from masculine energy, and you're constantly trying to achieve everything very
mm,
fiercely,
mm,
but the feminine energy needs to be there to make it gentle and also loving in a sense. So
mm,
if that's not there, then the masculine energy can become very destructive. And this is
mm,
what you see in the West a lot
mm,
with technological progress, like we're constantly trying to achieve in the business world. And
mm,
so divinely masculine for me would be that you embrace this active and fierce energy in a sense that is very
mm,
purpose driven, but towards a purpose that is larger than yourself. So, for
mm,
example, raising the consciousness of the world, or
mm,
helping people out of poverty, or
mm,
things like that. And that there is a good balance with the feminine energy that every man carries as well. So
mm,
he's able to be fierce and gentle at the same time. He's able to be very intense and active, but at the same time also observant and relaxed and
mm,
peaceful. For me,
mm.
this is a divine masculine character.
Wow, wow, wow. And I think you are in this healing journey and embodying it, because you mentioned that you, in this journey that you are, um, it's beautiful that you are actually going to a place which worships Lord Shiva, and the
Yeah.
and also where we say that the masculine and the feminine, they are always they are polarities, but they need to exist in us to really manifest even the divine side of any one of them, even the feminine and masculine.
Hmm.
So maybe rounding up this whole conversation, uh, how has the healing been so far?
Well, to be honest, I've been going through these wounds very recently, and it was very
Mm,
intense.
mm,
I could really feel intense, like pain from it. So it had a big impact on my emotions and my mental body and my physical body.
mm,
So I'm actually right now trying to figure out for myself what the best way is to heal this masculine
mm,
wound within myself.
mm,
So far, I see two ways. Um, One is based on Eckhart Tolle's teachings. Like whenever something triggers this wound or triggers a traumatic wound,
mm,
it can also be related to someone else, not the masculine wound or the feminine, but something else. Then what happens is this emotional trauma from the past gets triggered and active within you. So
mm,
if you're not very present, it can take you over and you become very reactive in a destructive sense.
mm,
So
mm,
whenever this trigger is there and you start to feel it, then what you can do is become very present. So you become
mm,
very aware of it and you try to stay in that dimension of no thinking, no conceptual thinking. So you're just experiencing it, you're embracing it, and it's okay to be there, but you're
mm,
disconnecting the emotion that you feel from the narrative, because
mm,
this emotional field that we carry also has a narrative to it. It's like a
mm,
story that we made up around this, and
mm,
often it's a story of of being a victim.
mm,
Um, so if you can separate this story from this emotion and you stop seeing yourself as the victim and the other as the perpetrator, or the
mm,
other way around, like if you're dealing with guilt from masculine energy, for example, if you can separate that from each other, then over time, then you are healing your wounds, because the ego is not able to feed off of this energy anymore and make it even
mm,
stronger, because you
mm,
separated the story and you can even make a new story there. But
mm,
as long as you separate that, it doesn't mean you're not gonna feel this emotion anymore. It can be that in the future something still triggers it and it comes up,
mm,
but you will be able to deal with it in a very healthy way.
mm.
And over time, maybe the whole wound in this lifetime can be healed. Maybe not.
Yeah,
Maybe it takes longer, but it could be. So
yeah.
this is one way that I'm uh, establishing for myself right now
Mm.
in my own life.
Okay, can I try to practically see it for myself? Just I'll give my own example and try to understand, because this is very interesting. One of my active triggers, especially at work, I feel is when I face the glass ceiling, when inspired doing all the work, I feel that I don't get the enough respect
Mhm.
or acknowledgement to progress, and hence I feel angry, like really angry.
Yeah.
And for example, at work, if somebody says that, okay, if I say something and totally disregards it, and I immediately feel that, oh, see, this person doesn't respect me, because this person thinks that females are not intelligent, or wise enough, or whatever,
Hmm.
or they are inferior. So there's a narrative that I start playing in me, and I get even more and more angry, And I start, um, being also reactive in that situation, that I want to, like, no, now I want you to hear me.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that, okay, in that moment when you feel that anger, just be in the
become
moment.
very become very present, yes, in the
Mm,
moment. So you can basically from within yourself you can see it happening, and you can realize, oh, this is my wound. It's
mm,
triggered now, so it's
mm,
active. So you're gonna feel it,
mm,
and then you also mentioned this whole story that you tell yourself
mm,
of not having respect because you're a female, and everything you said.
mm,
Like this story that needs to go because that's the victim story connected to this pain. So if you separate that,
mm,
if you
mm,
don't go there, don't
mm,
have these thoughts at all, then over time, this emotional wound within you doesn't have anything to feed on anymore. So it should,
mm,
but over time, diminish and become
mm.
less.
Yeah.
But it
Okay.
doesn't
So
it doesn't
just.
mean it's gone right away. It can still
Mm,
be triggered the next time, and then you just realize it again. And but this is a good way to deal with it because
mm,
it doesn't overtake you. You don't become reactive.
You just
You-
embrace the anger, but don't try to justify it and feed it with more of reasons from the
yeah,
past.
yeah. Accept it, embrace it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you accept it, embrace it. It's just there for the moment. It's not you. It's just active. It's the Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body.
Mm.
And you
Mm.
you do have to separate the story because
Mm.
if you don't separate this stream of thoughts around it that is very negative and victim minded, then you're still feeding it, and then
Wow.
it will not
Yeah.
heal.
Yeah, because for the intellectual mind, the masculine mind is like, but this is fact, this is proven fact. Why shouldn't I give this justification? And what you are saying to me is that, okay, even if it is a fact, still it's okay to embrace and disconnect it, because what has happened has happened.
Yeah, I mean it's sure. I mean there's a lot of hurts that people and bad things that people do to each other,
Mm,
but in the end it's something from the past. It's
yeah.
not there anymore. So why go over that? Why keep feeding it?
Mm,
And why not just forgive this person instead
mm,
and try to get rid of your own wounds because it's in the end it's just disturbing you, isn't it, to
mm,
have this anger? Because in the
mm,
end, whenever you have a negative emotion towards something, you're
mm,
hurting yourself much more than you're hurting both yourself and the outside world.
mm. Oh, wow. Very wise. Very wise. Beautiful. I'll take that tip.
Not always
Right
easy, I know.
now.
I also struggle with it sometimes, when
Yeah.
someone in my experience does something wrong to me.
Mm.
But the wise thing to do is to, in the end, forgive.
Okay. Yeah.
And because otherwise you're just creating suffering for yourself.
Mm.
Like
Mm.
the only thing you really need is self-respect. As long as you respect yourself, you don't need
Mm.
it on a very deep level.
Mm.
You're not seeking it in the outside world anymore.
Mm. That's so beautiful. That's, I think, the core of um all these teachings of self-love and finding yourself, healing, to find that respect that you're looking outside. Yeah. Okay.
Because, like, if you, for example, believe in reincarnation and these things carry over, then someone might show up in your life and it's a karmic account, like they call
Mm.
it, that
Mm.
does something really bad to you and you don't know
Mm.
why and you get angry about it, but maybe in the past life you did something similar to that person and this is just a repayment,
Yeah.
so
And
yeah,
how you work from there, because you have this friction, and if you keep on doing things with each other, you keep on, it's like a P&L sheet.
exactly. Exactly,
You
yes.
keep on doing that, and if you
Yes,
like, okay, now I'm not going to be triggered and I'm not going to do bad things, or cause myself pain, and then you start closing the account.
yes, and then the hurt from the other side will stop as well.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I think that's a very beautiful message, Chris.
Yeah, do you want to hear the other thing that you can do?
Yes. Oh, yes. There are two things.
I don't know how much time we have, but
I
yeah.
have a lot
And
of time.
okay. Another thing that I'm doing is mantras.
Mm,
So there are a lot of different mantras you can do um, to actively um, speak mantras
mm,
to heal these wounds. So
mm,
it's more like an active thing that you can also do when it doesn't get triggered. Uh,
mm,
there are different mantras. There are so many different mantras. Basically, a mantra is just like a thought that you create in your mind. You can even speak it out loud if you want, but I just do it in my mind.
mm,
And for example, in my case, with this masculine wound that is manifesting in my physical body, I try from my feminine energy, so to say, to um, say to my masculine side that I'm really sorry that you're going through this. Please
mm,
forgive me. Thank you. I love you. It's very
mm,
easy. Yeah, I think the mantra, someone told me that Honopo, I don't remember the name exactly,
mm,
but it's like a mantra from Hawaii
mm,
where um, this man in the mental institution didn't want to work with his patients directly because it was too extreme, but
mhm.
he would give them this mantra to speak for hours every day. And this person told me that in 4 years, his whole mental institution healed,
Wow.
which is very powerful, I
Yeah.
think. And whatever the mantra you can create yourself for your
Mm,
specific situation, but it needs to be around forgiveness. It needs
mm,
to be around forgiveness. Forgiveness is very powerful.
mm,
That's all.
mm.
That's also something you can actively do to heal your wounds.
And what's your favorite mantras? One you mentioned that from your feminine to masculine, you say yourself, I love you and forgive you. Are there
Yeah,
anything that you can recommend in general to our audience who is working on expanding their consciousness?
sorry, I'm not exactly getting your what you asked.
Is there any specific mantra you would recommend to the audience, which is like easy to start with? And
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, I cannot look it up. It's a Hawaii mantra called Honopo Nono or something.
okay,
I
this
don't
is
know
the
if you've
one.
heard of it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have heard about it. Yeah,
you've
yeah,
heard about it actually.
yes.
It's very easy. It revolves around the first part being sorry, second
Mm,
part please forgive me, third part thank you,
mm.
and the fourth part I love you unconditionally.
Oh,
And for example, for every situation that you in the past that you have trauma from and you have resentment towards another soul,
mm,
you can consciously address um, or if you yeah in this case if you've done someone else wrong, for example, you feel a lot of guilt towards that person, you can
mm,
actively say I'm sorry you have to go through this,
mm,
please forgive me,
mm,
thank you, I love you unconditionally.
mm,
And you can also do it from the other side. It's a very easy mantra and you
mm,
can extend it for your own situation,
mm,
basically, as long as
mm,
you project it on like the situation that triggers your wound, or
mm.
on the other soul that you have this karmic account.
Right. This sounds to me extremely logical, by the way. This is a very effective way of healing because that's what I want to hear. For example, that I want to hear, I'm sorry, or I want to hear that I love you. I want to hear that, unconditionally, even. And why can't I tell it to myself?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can also do it to yourself, like if you have certain parts in your body that are hurting,
Mm,
uh well usually these things happen for your own growth, for your own
mm,
raising your own consciousness, but your body has to go through this pain, so you can
mm,
also apologize to your body that it has to go through this.
Mm.
You ask it for forgiveness and you say thank you,
Mm.
and then I love you unconditionally to, and then you have a mental focus on this specific part of your body where where you're hurt, for example.
Mm. 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 I am so inspired to do mantras even more. I loved it, but I kind of am understanding the inner meaning behind why mantras work. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Hey Chris, do you have any final message? Any I wouldn't say final, you are just in the middle of the journey. So I think you would have so many messages. But at this point of time, now, is there a message that you have for the audience uh, to give?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Because I'm going through this dark period myself, I'm
Mm,
going to give a message around this.
mm,
Um, Whenever you are in a very, very tough and difficult situation, you can be grateful for that.
mm,
Because if you haven't awakened yet to a deeper dimension within yourself, you're getting very close to it. Because this is a huge, huge opportunity to go deeper within yourself and to raise your consciousness.
mm,
So please don't resent being in such a situation. I know it's not easy. I know it's difficult. I know it's tough, but
mm,
really you can be grateful for it because it's a huge opportunity.
mm. Beautiful. And I I so revere darkness because of this reason. And
Like embracing darkness is like, okay, maybe extend a little bit on the message.
yes.
Um, it is okay to look at your wounds once and understand them.
Mm,
You don't have to go there again and again and again and
mm,
recreate this pain. That's not
mm,
helping anyone. But
mm,
I do think it is good to for everyone to go into this darkness once in your life to see what is there and to experience it, to
mm,
just know it and
mm.
know when it gets triggered because that is your first step towards doing something about it and healing it.
Yeah. Alchemizing that pain and suffering and making it the wound to a scar and a scar of pride.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh wow. I had yeah, I'm feeling extremely grateful for this conversation, Chris. I think we
Me
touched
too.
upon so important topics.
Yeah, but also for me to share it in this way, it helps me a lot as well, because I'm going through this myself. And they
Mm,
say whatever you learn yourself, you teach.
mm,
So yeah, I guess it had to be like this. And I'm
mm.
very grateful for you as well for doing this talk with you.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to talk with you about these things.
Yeah.
You're so understanding, and yeah, it's just really great.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you so much. It's a pleasure.